escalating into full-body rumbles. Whether or not Bommai survives, the current turbulence over his position is one thing, but the tremors are no speculation. Amidst phone taps of ministers,
ಸರ್ಕಾರ ನಡೀತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಮ್ಯಾನೇಜ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು ಅಷ್ಟೇ.
ಸರ್
ಸಲೀಸ್ ಸಾಕಿ 8 ತಿಂಗಳು ಅಂತ
ಸರ್
ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು ಕಣಪ್ಪ ಅಷ್ಟೇ ನಾವು.
to ministers endorsing the opposition party's tallest leader.
ಯಾಕಂದರೆ ನಮಗೆ ಕೂಡ ಆಸೆ ಇದೆ. ಸಿದ್ದರಾಮಯ್ಯನವರು ಅವರು ಮುಖ್ಯಮಂತ್ರಿ ಆದಂಥ ಟೈಮಲ್ಲಿ ನಾನು ಹೇಳಿದ್ದೆ, ಸಿದ್ದರಾಮಯ್ಯನವರೇ ನೀವು ಇನ್ನೊಬ್ಬ ದೇವರಾಜ ಅರಸ್ ಆಗಬೇಕು, ಈ ರಾಜ್ಯಕ್ಕೆ ಇನ್ನೊಬ್ಬ ದೇವರಾಜ ಅರಸ್ ಆಗಬೇಕಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ದೆ ನಾನು.
To hush-hush meetings between a supposedly beleaguered chief minister and the RSS, hoping for immunity against marching orders.
Is the party ready to change Mr. Basavaraj Bommai as the chief minister? That's the big question. But however, it's unlikely at this point of time, because at what cost? It would be a second Lingayat leader who would be replaced. Just now today we saw how Yediyurappa has been elevated to the parliamentary board, accommodating the Lingayat community once again. They are the backbone of the BJP. Will the BJP have the political will and courage to replace another Lingayat? That's the big question. But things are not looking fine for the Karnataka government as for BJP here.
To the BJP High Command's man in charge of Karnataka, flying down for a high-level huddle. At the very least, indications are that all is not well. What's more, posters of other BJP leaders projecting them as future CMs have sprung up. A clear sign of blood in the water. The posters coming days after former BJP CM Jagdish Shettar arrived in Delhi, possibly to lobby for a role in the Karnataka Game of Thrones. Even a divided Congress trying to quell a public feud between Siddaramaiah and State Chief D.K. Shivakumar has now found an opportunity to divert from its own internal battles.
Mr. Bommai is going to be replaced as the Chief Minister before the election, sir?
I don't want to involve with their political activities. Let they keep him or let they change him. It is left to them. We are least bothered about it.
D.K.
But we are very
Shivakumar
sorry that Karnataka is taking a very bad shape.
As the buzz over Bommai explodes, the BJP is playing it cool.
If you say that the CM is doing very good, if hundreds and thousands of workers they are saying he is doing very good work for the poor, for the farmers, वो आपको ध्यान में आता नहीं है. हमारे मिनिस्टर सब एक वॉइस में बोलते हैं कि सीएम के नेतृत्व में बीजेपी की सरकार अच्छा काम कर रही है, वो ध्यान में आता नहीं है. एक कहीं से लकीर पकड़ करके उसको बहुत बड़ा बनाने का काम यह कांग्रेस पार्टी कर रही है.
Whether the chips land, there is little time for political maneuver with only 8 months to go for elections. With Nagarjun Dwarkanath in Bengaluru, Bureau Report, India Today.
The BJP officially would have us believe that most of this rumour mongering is being done by the Congress. The fact is, a lot of the voices of dissent inadvertently or deliberately are coming out from within the BJP, raising the question about the Chief Minister's continuance in power. Remember, this is not something the BJP would like to do, which is to change the Chief Minister again after having with great difficulty shown B.S. Yediyurappa the exit gate. However, is it now becoming more and more likely? To talk about this and more on the Newstrack, I'm joined on this broadcast by S. Prakash, senior leader of the Bharatiya Janata Party in Karnataka. Squaring off against him, representing the Congress, Aishwarya Mahadev. We've got Sandeep Shastri, one of the leading political analysts out of Karnataka, tracks the politics of the state very closely. Tara Krishnaswamy joins us, citizen activist and author. Let me go across to S. Prakash, and I want to quote to you what J.C. Madhuswamy, the Minister of Law, Parliamentary Affairs and Irrigation in Karnataka said, "We're not running a government here, we are just managing, pulling through for the next 7-8 months." When a key minister in your government says something like this and it becomes public, it raises very serious questions about A, how Chief Minister Bommai is doing, B, whether it is possible for him to continue, C, whether it is now increasingly likely that CM Bommai will be changed before the Karnataka elections next year. S. Prakash.
See, this audio relates to very old, few months back. And he was speaking to one of our Karyakarta, nothing to, and he has already clarified about it. Even the Chief Minister has clarified about the content of the audio. But that has nothing to do with the change of leadership or anything. This change of leadership rumor is being spread by vested interest people for the last 6 months. Every month, every week, I see many stories being circulated that the Bommai will be replaced. But he is going strong and strong with each passing day. When our state national president clearly says the party is going to fight the election in 2023 under the leadership of Bommai, still this rumors is being spread, and this story is picked up by channels and stories are made, and we have been questioned that is it true that the Bommai will be changed. We have been repeatedly saying we will be fighting the 2023 election under the leadership of Sri Bommai ji, and we are going to roam home comfortably. It will be a very big disappointment for the Congress party, who are also involved and indulging in this change of leadership rumors. They even tweet the BJP is going to have a third chief minister. I just wanted to ask them then who is our chief minister? Please nominate them also. When you say we are changing the leaders, chief minister, then let them also say who is going
Aishwarya Mahadev, over the last few weeks, I have personally had an opportunity to ask two of the top leaders in the BJP at the central leadership whether they plan to change the Chief Minister of Karnataka. Both very clearly, affirmatively said that no, they had no plans of changing Bommai and that they intended to fight the elections under Bommai's leadership. The BJP alleges that this is a Congress conspiracy, that you are spreading these canards, taking a small issue, blowing it up because you would like the Chief Minister to go, but Bommai is here to stay and he's going nowhere.
Good evening, Rahul. I think first and foremost, as much as the BJP would like to blame us for it was somebody of their own party that spoke about the Chief Minister being changed. That was Mr. B. Suresh Gowda. It was also somebody of their own party who made allegations of massive corruption. It was some of their own ministers who are proclaiming to be the next Chief Minister. And looking at the history of the BJP in their last term in power, you saw 3 CMs. We thought they were going to hit the trifecta again. But Rahul, let me come to the larger point of what the BJP is doing to my state today. Ever since they took over power after horse trading and illegitimately put in their government there, they are rocked by instability and corruption. Right, time and time again, whether it's the PSI scam now, whether it's the fodder scam, whether it's appointments into, professor positions, whether it's their own Karyakartas rebelling and resigning against them because of what happened in the coast, you realize that the BJP right now is focusing on internal skirmishes and the power struggle far more than giving administration to the people. Everybody would love to talk about the fact that my top leadership is somebody where there's so much instability. If I have to even admit, even though that's false, that doesn't matter. We are in opposition. We're still doing the job of responsible opposition. But this internal fighting within the BJP is hampering administration in my state today. You see neutral third parties coming out alleging corruption. You see ministers on audio leaks talking about how they're barely scraping through. Mr. Bommai obviously needs to have, the high command come in and put everybody in line like they were errant schoolboys that need to be punished for them talking out. And all is not well with the BJP whatsoever. Their track record on development is abysmal. Communalism is at a high.
Okay, let's hold that. I want to go back to S. Prakash for a counter. This audio tape was of a BJP minister. The likes of Basnagowda, Patil, Yatnal have said that they would like to be chief minister, that they can lead the BJP to 150 seats. You've got B. Shiramalu, who's come out and made comments. You've got J.C. Madhuswamy, who I spoke about. You've got Suresh Gowda, the former BJP MLA, talking about a change in chief ministership in the next few days. There has been talk in the party. You've heard Minister Umesh Katti talk a bit about it as well. Now, a lot of this is coming, frankly, from within the BJP. You can blame Aishwarya Mahadev and the Congress till the cows come back. But a lot of these voices are coming from your party, which would suggest that there are those in the BJP in Karnataka who believe that Chief Minister Bommai is not being able to manage your party, and many within would like to see a change of leadership. That's the fact.
No, I never said Congress is spreading the rumors. They are responsible. I said vested interests are behind this rumors. I never said Congress party is doing. Regarding the various voices emanating from the Bharatiya Janata Party leadership, such voices do come when there is in power. Many of them speak out of the line. Even in Congress party, Digvijay Singh and Shashi Tharoor many a times embraced the party with their contradictory statements. But the party has distanced itself with such statements, saying no, it is their personal opinion. It has nothing to do with the party. When it comes to them, it is personal opinion, and anyone can hear anything. But when it comes to the BJP, it becomes a very big issue. This is what I object to it. You don't have double standards. The state is managed well, and we are doing very good work.
But we're not hearing BJP ministers, Mr. Prakash, we're not hearing BJP ministers in Uttar Pradesh ask for Yogi Adityanath to be changed. I'm not hearing BJP ministers in Assam asking for Himanta Biswa Sarma to be changed. These are voices coming from within the BJP. All the Digvijay Singhs and Shashi Tharoors you spoke of seem to be in the Karnataka BJP, and yours was supposed to be a party with the difference.
Sir, no minister has demanded change of leadership in Karnataka also. Kindly note it. Who has asked? Let them ask. See what Mr. Suresh Gowda spoke. He is an ex-MLA. He has spoken about his mind. That had nothing to do with the party. Our party has already clarified about it. His personal opinion cannot become a party official stand. How can it be? And moreover, Jagat Pratap Naddaji, our national president, our state in charge, Mr. Arun Singh, they have clarified Mr. Bommai will be the chief minister even in 2023 and after 2023 also. Is that not sufficient? Should we consider an ex-MLA statement as prominent than our national president? That is what my question is. Regarding other issues, as a political party, as an opposition party, Congress has every right to raise it. Every right to corner the state, our government. I accept it. But there is a counter point of view also that should be heard.
Aishwarya Mahadev, the likes of Digvijay Singh often shoot off their mouths, says S. Prakash, speaking for themselves, not for the Congress, which is a fact that's happened oftentimes, not just with Digvijay but with others too. And the BJP has a few Digvijays of their own. They're speaking for themselves, not for the party. Amit Shah, the Home Minister, JP Nadda, the BJP President, have both publicly affirmed their faith in Basavaraj Bommai.
You know, Rahul, the difference that lies between congressmen talking about issue-based agendas where they may differ with the party line is diametrically opposite to people from their own party talking about how the power is going to change, how another CM is going to be displaced, and you cannot draw that false equivalence. And you know, statements, it's not personal opinion when a Yatnar comes out and says it takes you 2,000 crores to become chief minister in this state, that's why there's so much corruption. It also is Madhuswamy, it is not an opinion when he says the government is just trudging along. Look at the portfolio that he holds. Having issue-based differences is different from talking about internal skirmishes of dissent that are so massive that, let me give you an example. The one-year celebration of the BJP government was unceremoniously called off because of the protests against the party leadership itself. And you saw the party leadership saying if workers leave, more of them will come. When the Karyakartas on the ground have so much agitation and anger against the party leadership, and the party likes to dismiss it. Yes, you know, we had an entire debate, Rahul, about what was said by fans of a former chief minister of the Congress. But when conversations here of BJP leaders proclaiming themselves, Mr. Murugesh Nirani had posters all across of saying the next chief minister. But that obviously is not something that the BJP will consider. It's convenient hypocrisy. But ask him this, isn't this skirmish hampering the development in my state? Isn't it denying people opportunity? Are youngsters not committing suicide? Are
so let me put those questions to the non-politicians on the show, and I'll start with Sandeep Shastri. Why has Basavaraj Bommai failed to establish himself as the undisputed chief minister? He came in with BSY's blessings, which made his task easier than if he'd come in with BSY offended. Despite that, there are others who clearly don't think he's fit for the job, who are out to get him, many of them voicing their displeasure publicly and more trying to topple him without making their displeasure known. Why has he not been able to sit comfortably on that chair and get the job done?
Rahul, when Mr. Bommai became Chief Minister, I think it's important to assert the point that Bommai was the choice of the central leadership of the BJP, supported by Yediyurappa, endorsed by Yediyurappa, and not the other way around. I think that's an important point to remember in understanding what's happening today. A leadership at the center chooses him, and down the year, it is noticed that Bommai has not been able to assert his position as a leader in spite of the various opportunities that seem to have been provided. And that has given room to the rumors that you are seeing. Let's also remember the BJP in Karnataka, be its legislature party or the larger party, has several factions within it. And all these factions see this opportunity to be able to assert their presence within the party, and therefore you have a such a development happening. Though the party president, though the general secretary of the party have made the point that Bommai will lead us into the election, these voices continue simply because the belief is enough has not been done by the chief minister to be able to assert his position, and therefore these voices go on. My own sense is the election is too close for any change of leadership for the BJP to do. But these voices will continue because the chief minister has not been able to establish his political footprints the way he should have in the time that was made available.
Manoviraj Khosla, how badly has this dissent within and outside the BJP impacted governance in Karnataka in your view? Is it impacting people's lives? Do you think of this as an inefficient, ineffectual government? Or do you think it doesn't really matter so much?
No, but of course it matters, because the entire place is in shambles. You have roads which are in shambles, you have traffic which is a complete mess. The infrastructure is crumbling, and they're busy doing this sort of infighting thing, which is actually, when you're busy trying to solve those problems, you're not actually solving the real problems, which is what you were elected to do in any case. If you have an internal squabble with whoever it is, then those people should, like you said earlier, yes, come out with it like they did in the Congress with the likes of Kapil Sibal and everything. And they said, okay, these are our voices and these are our concerns. We don't want this leadership. You need to change it. The same thing they should do so that it's out in the open. They can take a decision. But in the meantime, the government has to be allowed to function, and so that people don't suffer the way they are. The city is a complete mess.
Tarak Krishnaswamy, each time I travel to Bengaluru, I affirm the fact that the city is a mess, as would anybody in Bengaluru who's watching. I was in Ahmedabad recently. They've actually built flyovers going all the way from the airport down to Ahmedabad, making the city's civic public infrastructure much better than in years gone by. Whereas when you come to Bengaluru,
exactly
you see how things are going from bad to worse. How badly, according to you, is governance impacted because the chief minister is busy trying to save his chair?
But that's exactly
governance is very seriously impacted, Rahul. As you know, as citizens, we really couldn't, care two hoots if the, parties are, infighting, or, whoever is fighting for the chair. What is most important to us is that governance is delivered. And the chief minister is the Bangalore development minister. He holds that portfolio. As you know, the courts have been directing the potholes to be filled. Yesterday's news from the Times of India is that water levels are in critical condition. Groundwater table is in critical condition. This is their headline in Bengaluru. But beyond that, if you look at Niti Aayog's own report about Karnataka, our inequality is increasing, our educational outcomes have declined, our water and sanitation outcomes have declined. And then if you look at our budget, which was most recently announced, there is a 65% decrease in scholarships for minorities. There is a 85% decrease in social welfare department post-matriculation scholarship, even for backward classes. For SC/ST, there's again a decrease of
so over 50%. So if you look at all this, you cannot possibly have governance outcomes when on the one hand, budget is decreasing both for the majority of the population. It's easy to say it's minorities. You club the backward class, the SC/STs, the women, and the minorities together. That really is the majority of the population. Budget allocations are decreasing. You see, and in fact, the observation that Niti Aayog has made is that Karnataka is not doing enough of tracking, monitoring, and administering in the districts and the taluks. So it's very centered around city and city real estate. At the same time, the city itself is suffering. Look at the BBMP elections. The Bangalore Corporation elections haven't been held for 2 years, and the delimitation and reservation exercise they've done is so pathetic that the within colonies, within a given apartment community, you have flats that are in 2 different wards, and citizens have, risen in protest. So there is just a complete apathy and lack of governance everywhere, and an over-focus, over-rotation on the elections. It seems like everything else has come to a standstill.
Prakash, respond to what you're hearing from Thrara Krishnaswamy and Manoviraj Khosla. Karnataka receives the maximum amount of FDI when it comes to foreign investment coming into India. This is supposed to be a showcase state in terms of it hosting India's IT capital. But you've got a situation where road infrastructure is bad, civic infrastructure is bad. Citizens feel that the government isn't doing its job because your ministers are busy fighting with each other. There is infighting in your party, and the chief minister is busy saving his chair.
I don't know where the Asha Krishnaswamy has got the figures that every allotment, every grant have been reduced. She should only explain to that, which is far from truth. I beg to differ with that. With regards to the infrastructure in Bangalore, the population of Bangalore has exceeded more than 1 crore, and roads meant for about 10 to 15 lakhs now taking up more than 70 to 80 lakhs of vehicle traffic on the road. Certainly it is a very big challenge for any government to create an excellent infrastructure, but it is not possible overnight.
Overnight, sir, you've been in power for several years now. This is not overnight. It's not like it took over yesterday. No, 1 second, sir.
Power, it was...
This is something that you're sure they were in power the last term, but earlier it was Yedurappa, now Basavaraj Bommai. Your government has been in power. It's your responsibility to fix it, sir.
Sir, last 7 years it was the Congress party was in power in Karnataka. 5 years Siddaramaiah and 2 years of Kumaraswamy supported by the Congress party. We are here from the last 2 years. And certainly I am not putting the blame on that government or this government. I am not doing it. I am saying the government is honestly addressing all these problems. Certainly,
no, but this is a fact. Let Aishwarya Mahadev respond to it. That last 7 years, before the last 2, it was the Congress and the Congress plus JDS which was in power, and therefore you can't blame Basavaraj Bommai and the BJP. They can't work miracles overnight, says S. Prakash. The BJP needs more time.
Because from 2019 onwards, it's obviously a short span of time for them. But let me make one thing clear. In the 5 years that the Congress was in power, not once did you have this sort of power struggle that put any sort of development behind, whether it was SC/STP allocations, whether it was grants for backward communities and the most disenfranchised. We gave historic sort of grants for them, and development was at a high. And today what you see, the High Court itself has hauled the government up more than 10 times, saying your pothole situation is horrible. People have died, transformers have killed people because of bad management, and that is a reality. Rahul, I come from rural Karnataka, 3/4 of where even rural Mysore, where school children don't have their shoes, they don't have their second set of uniforms. One, you see the cooks from the midday meal scheme who are protesting in Bangalore today because they're being forced to retire and new appointments are being made illegally. You saw Paura Karmikas protesting for the fact that they don't even get basic security. You saw ASHA workers also who don't have insurance.
Aishwarya Mahadev, when you say that there is no infighting in the Congress, nothing can be further from the truth. You said this didn't happen when you were in power. Look at what's happening in your party at this moment. If there's churn and disconcerted voices coming from the BJP, there's even bigger drama playing itself out within the Congress, where the party seems to be split between the two tall leaders. who are quite clearly at odds with each other, wanting to be projected as the next chief ministerial face, while DK Shivkumar and Siddaramaiah hugged each other for the cameras at Siddaramaiah's birthday. The Karnataka Congress chief has once again made his chief ministerial ambitions very clear, and that all's not well between Sidda and DKS is the worst kept secret in Karnataka politics.
Two warring Karnataka Congress satraps embracing. It should be music to Congress ears, but alas, it may have been a forced show of bonhomie. Look closely and you can see Rahul Gandhi prodding bitter rivals DKS and Siddaramaiah to kiss and make up. The gesture from Rahul did manage to do the trick for the cameras, and the two Congress stalwarts indeed hugged. The gesture may have made for a perfect shot, but things are far from perfect in the Karnataka Congress. The two stalwarts are contending to be the next Chief Minister face for Congress. Between them is the fiercest factional feud that has kept the Karnataka Congress divided. And with just months to go for assembly elections in the state, it could be the centerpiece of another big undoing for the Congress party. While Shivakumar and Siddaramaiah have played down the feud, it is an open secret that there is no love lost or any great trust either. And DK, as he is known within political circles, dropped a veritable political bombshell.
ಸೂರ್ಯನಿಗೂ ಭೂಮಿಗೂ ಒಂದು ಸಂಬಂಧ ಹುಡುಕಿ ನಮ್ಮ ಜೆಡಿಎಸ್ ಅವರು ಹೇಳಿದಂಗೆ ಒಂದು ಸೋಲಾರ್ ಪಾರ್ಕ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ತೀರ್ಮಾನ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು. ಏನ್ ಬಿಜೆಪಿ ಫ್ರೆಂಡ್ಸ್ ಏನೋ ಮಾಡ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದೀನಿ ಅಂತ ಟಿಆರ್ ಇದ್ದಾಗ ಎಲ್ಲ ಹುಡುಕಿ ಪಡ್ಕೆನ ಒಳಗಡೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ಹೋದ್ರು, ಏನೋ ಹೊಡೆದಾಕ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದೀನಿ ಅಂತ. 15,000 ಎಕರೆ ಒಬ್ಬ ರೈತನ ಹತ್ರ ಒಂದು ಜಮೀನನ್ನು ಅಕ್ವಿಷನ್ ಮಾಡಲಿಲ್ಲ.
DK Shivakumar, charismatic, relatively younger and with reputation for crisis management, famously fought off BJP in the thriller of a 2018 election results. Ever since, he has played lead actor in the mission to galvanize and get the Congress war ready for 2023. But the massive show of Siddaramaiah's strength and popularity at his 75th birthday celebrations may have just tipped the scales in his favor. The stage is set for one of the most suspenseful political fights in the run-up to the big one in 2023. Bureau Report, India Today.
You've got the Congress complaining about BJP leaders being at odds with each other, speaking against each other publicly. But the kind of situation that we're seeing play itself out between Siddaramaiah and DK Shivkumar is much worse. This kind of infighting where both are clamoring for the Chief Minister's chair doesn't speak very well of how united the Congress is. Rahul Gandhi trying to signal to both of them, hug each other, DK is going and doing a heart. It looks so orchestrated and so fake. This is not coming from the heart, Aishwarya. The Congress too is in a mess, very badly fractured in Karnataka.
Okay, so Rahul, let's make one thing clear. From the period of 2013 to 2018, when Mr. Siddaramaiah was Chief Minister, not once did you say dissent of having to change as Chief Minister, one. And second, people making statements such as this. It was a collected house and we gave you 5 years of able administration. Today, the situation, and I do not want you to draw the comparison, is an internal sort of conversation between two leaders who have their own aspirations to lead the party, is one thing that cannot be equated with an internal skirmish in the BJP, which is leading to lack of development. We have still been an absolutely active opposition, whether it comes to protest, any sort of events that are happening. And all of you, when you speculate about this internal skirmish between Mr. Siddaramaiah and DK Shivkumar, forget that the High Command has already made it absolutely clear that it is collective leadership we will determine after you deliver the state to us. While the same cannot be said of the BJP. You have every man saying the government is not functioning. You have leaders themselves putting posters saying they're the CM. So for them, administration is not happening. They are in government. They have a higher responsibility and they're abdicating that responsibility for the sake of these internal power struggles and skirmishes. While on the opposition side, you may try and play it up as much as you want, but both of them are thorough congressmen who know that they will never cross the diktat of what the leadership wants, and the leadership wants a collective plank of all leaders to work together to bring the Congress to power.
S. Prakash, for one, the Congress is in opposition, so their leaders fighting doesn't really impact governance. You've got Aishwarya saying when we were in government there wasn't that much infighting. That's not really true, because I remember the likes of several leaders in the Karnataka Congress at that time, including your Deputy Chief Minister, raising questions against the Chief Minister. So you've had those problems when you were in power, but they're now in opposition, and yours is supposed to be a party with a difference, and you're supposed to be able to deal with these things, and therefore don't compare yourself as Prakash with the Congress.
No, we are not comparing with the Congress at all. She is creating a rift in the party. Where is the dissidence in the BJP? Who is demanding that he should be the chief minister in the coming election? Nobody is saying. Some here and there audio voices are taken up, and if the story is made up, how are we responsible? Here in Congress party, Siddaramaiah celebrate birthday. And after seeing the crowd, DK Shivakumar get unnerved, so he calls for another march on Independence Day, Swatantrada Nadige. So he shows his power, and he wants to establish himself as the top leader of the Congress party in Karnataka. The power struggle is happening even before they get into the power in Karnataka between Siddaramaiah and DK Shivakumar. They should deal with it first. We have declared our chief ministerial candidate, Mr. Bommai, as the chief minister for 2023. Let them declare who is the chief minister in Karnataka. Earlier they used to do it. Why are they now hesitating to do it? Why should they put a condition that deliver the government? Then we will decide it. That means they don't have a clarity on who should be lead the Congress party in Karnataka. Any decision on that, they know there will be dissident and disturbances, and party may even split there. So they should handle.
You know, our viewers would have noticed how S. Prakash's conviction in talking about the problems in the Congress seemed to be much higher than his conviction while responding to the question on the troubles within the BJP. But I have a trick question for you, Dr. Shastri. You've got the Kuruba leader, former Chief Minister Siddaramaiah. He will be able to rally the OBC castes which are spread across the state. You've got DK Shivakumar, who's come out and said today that our communities should make leaders. There will be many opportunities in the coming day. I leave it to your discretion. There hasn't been a big Vokaliga Karnataka Congress leader in a long time. There is an opportunity there that DK Shivakumar hopes to fill. Who between the two do you think would be better suited and more able to lead the Congress's chances in the next assembly elections? Because ultimately Rahul Gandhi can try and signal to them to patch up, but he will at some point in time need to make a call. Who do you think would be the better bet at this stage?
Rahul, I think there is a clear reason for not declaring a chief ministerial candidate, because the Congress is very keen as part of its campaign to bring in the social coalition of the backward castes, Dalits, as well as one of the dominant castes, the Vokaligas. And if you were to announce a chief ministerial name at this stage, there is a likelihood of not being able to get one of these segments as part of your support.
Correct.
Siddaramaiah in important senses represents the backward caste. He is part of what is called the Ahinda movement, and he was able to rally the backward castes and the Dalits. Mr. Shivakumar, on the other hand, represents a powerful Vokaliga group. So the hope of the Congress party is that by a collective leadership, you are able to bring both these segments together. On the other hand, you appoint one of them as the chief ministerial candidate, you are likely to lose out on the support of the other group. So Rahul, I think the issue is, in the next 7-8 months, between the BJP and the Congress, the one who is able to demonstrate to the voter that we have greater unity, I think stands a better chance. This election is an election of how you bring into the voter's mind the view that the party is more united. Also remember, Rahul, since 1985, Karnataka has never ever given a ruling party a clear majority. BJP wants to reverse that trend. Congress is hoping that the trend will continue, and I think the ultimate factor would be how well do each of these parties project their unity before the voter, and for me that would be the deciding factor.
And there's also the Polarization Nataka that's being played out in Karnataka. This time, Savarkar posters have become the new flashpoint after images of Savarkar were taken down by alleged Tipu Sultan supporters in Shivamogga. Unrest seems to have spread to other parts of the state.
Congress leader Siddaramaiah facing the wrath of protesting BJP workers. During a bid to gherao his vehicle in Kodagu, amid the escalating Savarkar face-off, "Go back Siddaramaiah" and "Student of Tipu Sultan" chants rented the air. Many protesters even egged Siddaramaiah's car a day after pamphlets were thrown at his car. The protesters upset over the Congress leader earlier slamming them over installing Savarkar posters.
ಆಮೇಲೆ ಕಾಂಗ್ರೆಸ್ ಮೇಲೆ ಗೂಬೆ ಕೂರಿಸ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಕೆಲಸ ಇದನ್ನ ವ್ಯವಸ್ಥಿತವಾಗಿ ಬಿಜೆಪಿ ಅವ್ರ ಫೋಟೋ ಹಾಕಕ್ಕೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ಹೋಗಿರೋದು ಮುಸಲ್ಮಾನರು ಏರಿಯಾದಲ್ಲಿ ಹಾಕೊಳ್ಳಿ ನಮ್ದು ತಕರಾರಿಲ್ಲ ಬಿಜೆಪಿ ಯಾವ ಫೋಟೋ ಹಾಕೊಳ್ಳಿ.
The BJP versus Siddaramaiah war escalating after this jibe by Shivamogga BJP MLA Ishwarappa.
ಯಾವಾಗ ಮುಸಲ್ಮಾನರ ಭಾಗದಲ್ಲಿ ಸಾವರ್ಕರ್ ಫೋಟೋ ಇಟ್ಟರು ಅಂತಂದ್ರು ಈ ಮನುಷ್ಯನ ಹೆಸರು ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಬಾಯ ಹುಳ ಬೀಳುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ನಂಗೆ ಅನಿಸ್ತು. ಸ್ವಾತಂತ್ರ್ಯ ವೀರ ಸಾವರ್ಕರ್ ಹೆಸರನ್ನ ಅವ್ರ ಫೋಟೋನ ಮುಸಲ್ಮಾನರು ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಇರೋಂಥ ಜಾಗದಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾಕೆ ಇಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಕೇಳಿದ್ರಲ್ಲ, ಇಂಥ ರಾಷ್ಟ್ರದ್ರೋಹಿ ನನ್ನ ಜೀವನದಲ್ಲಿ ನಾನು ಕಂಡಿರ್ಬೇಕು. ಏನೋ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಗೌರವ ಇತ್ತು ನಂಗೆ ಸಿದ್ದರಾಮಯ್ಯನ ಬಗ್ಗೆ. ಅದು ಇಂಥ ನೀಚ ಸಿದ್ದರಾಮಯ್ಯ ಅನ್ನೋದು ಗೊತ್ತಿರಲಿಲ್ಲ. ಮುಸಲ್ಮಾನರ ಓಟಿಗೆ ಏನು ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೂ ಬಗ್ತೀನಿ ಏನಂತ ಪರಿಸ್ಥಿತಿ ಬಂದೋಯ್ತಲ್ಲ. ಇದು ನಮ್ಮ ದೇಶದ ದುರ್ದೈವ, ನಮ್ಮ ರಾಜ್ಯದ ದುರ್ದೈವ. ಇಂಥ ಮುಖ್ಯಮಂತ್ರಿಗಳನ್ನ ಪಡೆದಿದ್ವಲ್ಲ.
In Tumakuru, several new Savarkar posters came up near the Ganesh temple in Town Hall area. Earlier, miscreants had ripped off similar Savarkar posters put up in the location. Shivamogga had witnessed clashes between two groups after a 20-year-old man, Prem Singh, was stabbed in the face-off between Savarkar and Tipu Sultan posters. BJP leader Yashpal Suvarna is now seeking a Savarkar statue in Udupi.
They don't know what is Savarkar, what is the contribution of the Veer Savarkar. He is a freedom fighter. He was imprisoned for more than 26 years. He has given the life for 2 times in the history of India.
The Savarkar face-off spread to Kerala's Malappuram after a school student dressed up as Savarkar during the Independence Day celebrations. Congress and Muslim groups staged protest against the school, which was even show-caused. With Priyanka Rudrappa and Sage Raj in Bengaluru, Bureau Report, India Today.
Do you get a feeling, Manoviraj Khosla, that sometimes issues like Tipu Sultan, like Veer Savarkar are raised by our political parties because it's much easier to get people agitated about history, about perceived wrongs, than to explain answers about potholes, about water, about clogged roads, which are more here and now, and therefore distract them?
You took the words out of my mouth. I was just going to say that when I was hearing this entire thing, that, it's amazing how you sort of gather people to follow you and show them you're a political leader, not because of what you've actually done, but by breaking up history or something which is so doesn't concern the average person on a daily life. It doesn't matter. I'm sure whatever your sentiments are about any particular historical figure or freedom fighter, whoever, that's fine, that's great. But why is it that no one is, whether it's political infighting, the person gets elected because he has more followers, or what he can do and how he can work his way within a political party. Nowhere is it about what work you have actually done. And that's the most important thing.
Tara, Tipu Sultan lived, it is said, between 1751 and 1799. It doesn't really matter so much, frankly, to the current state of administration, civic infrastructure in Karnataka, what Tipu Sultan did or did not do. Are you concerned that as parties fail to deal with this infighting, their voices of dissent, they will raise more of these polarizing issues because you get people agitated. They're out on the streets showing black flags. It's a grand smoke of destruction that's being set up, Tara.
Taking away from the main issues at hand.
Smoke screen. It's definitely a smoke screen, Rahul. If you even look at the ruling party spokespeople, they're saying we are unaware of where you're getting the data. Niti Aayog itself has said Karnataka has dropped in gender equality in the past 3 years. Sex ratio at birth has worsened in Karnataka compared to the rest of India. Everybody went through COVID. Why is Karnataka doing worse than other comparable states? Why is the ratio of female labor force participation much worse in Karnataka than elsewhere? If they are completely unaware of the real governance metric, they don't have the data for all that, but they have the data about who is infighting in the opposition party, what the opposition party said, whether that was a photo op or not. Who cares? How come they don't come prepared with where Karnataka is when it comes to governance? And why have we not done it?
It's much easier, S. Prakash, to talk about something that happened in the 18th century, get people agitated. Frankly, at least to my mind, it makes no difference. What matters more is your promise on roads, your promise on infrastructure, your promise on investment, your promise on agriculture, your promise on farming. Those are the questions that you should be judged by. You've got netas getting their workers all agitated, showing these black flags, throwing eggs. This is one grand smoke of distraction that you're creating.
No, it was not BJP which created it, very frankly. It was Congress party and especially Siddaramaiah who is being targeting Veer Savarkar for the last 20-30 days, continuously questioning his integrity, questioning his freedom, struggle against British. It was unwarranted. Instead of celebrating, instead of respecting the freedom fighters, he was in the forefront to defame him. And moreover, when the flex was removed, Veer Savarkar flex was removed in Shumaga, he should have advocated harmony, peace in the district, because we had seen several communal violence in the past. Instead of that, he said, why did they keep the flex in a Muslim area? Do we have a place where it is a Muslim area or a Hindu area? Our India belongs to everyone, every caste, every religion. This attitude and this type of divisive politics practiced by Siddaramaiah is responsible.
Aishwarya Mahadev, respond. A lot of the provocative comments have come from your former chief minister who's been targeting Veer Savarkar, and therefore the Congress is to blame on this as well.
Okay, Rahul, a little bit of context before that. I think a few years before this, neither of the BJP has never, and I'm from Karnataka, I can stake my career on this, had ever spoken about Savarkar. I'm talking about pre-2014 one. And second, people from the BJP itself had said you view Tipu Sultan not from the angle of religion, but rather geopolitics, because of the fact of what it was back in the day. So much so that Yediyurappa, Jagdish Shettar have also started celebrating Tipu Jayanti in itself. However, fast forward to now, the fact remains that they absolutely cannot administer. The state is in abysmal situation. So they obviously want to use emotive issues and build this us versus them narrative as a manner to distract from what is really affecting people. You're making youngsters of my state cannon fodder, and you're seeing communal murders all across, and the BJP trying to come out and have these larger conversations. The fact remains that Savarkar lived before. Right? Tipu Sultan also did. They are not living in Bangalore of today or Karnataka of today, where corruption, where administration, everything has basically completely destroyed the state, and the BJP should engage with that. Leave history be. We will have that dialogue after you give what your basic responsibility is to the people.
Okay, I'm out of time on this debate. We've heard from citizens, we've heard from the political party on both sides of the divide. And we leave it to you, our viewer, to determine who you think is in the right, or is anyone at all in the right in this case. Karnataka politics is very clearly heating up. There is a pitched contest, make no mistake. Unlike Gujarat, where it's largely one-way traffic, Karnataka is seeing a battle between the two big parties, which is why you're also seeing all this tension and energy build up. We'll track this story very closely when I come back from a very quick break. Taiwan responds with its own air military exercises. Details coming up on the other side.
become the next Prime Minister? Who is the best performing minister in the Modi government? To know the answer of several such other questions, read the latest edition of India Today's exclusive Mood of the Nation poll. Subscribe to India Today magazine now.
Are people in China under house arrest? As of noon on Friday, Hainan had registered a total of 2,814 confirmed cases and 2,340 asymptomatic carriers. They cannot enter public buildings, use public transport or cross city boundaries. And they cannot go to banks to withdraw their money. Recently, China has deployed its military campaigns in Taiwan. And last month, people's bank accounts were frozen. Are these related? Is the Chinese government using COVID regulations as an excuse to keep its people from their money? People are using a health code app which is turning red whenever they enter a building, shop or use public transport. So the health code app informs if a person is COVID-19 infected or is suspected to have COVID and must quarantine for 14 days. Therefore, the red sign informs about the health status of that person, or rather affirms the quarantine status. These cases are particularly happening in villages and towns of Henan province and its capital city of Zhengzhou. So if a person leaves Henan, every building allows them to enter. This lapse has caused severe damage to thousands of people. More than 39 billion yuan, that is nearly 5 billion pounds and $6 billion from people's accounts has been frozen. The China Banking and Insurance Regulatory Commission has put the entire blame on a company called Henan New Fortune. They have been blamed for using public funds. The company is currently under investigation. The question that arises is, how can China delay such a serious issue for over a month? Is the delay a deliberate move to amass funds to sponsor a war against Taiwan?
You're on board the Newstrack. After days of Chinese war games, Taiwan's Air Force is now showing off its might. Taiwanese F-16s, Black Hawks, Apaches are roaring through the island nation's skies. Is a China-Taiwan dogfight looming in the skies? Gaurav Sawant is in Taipei and he files this exclusive report.
Advanced Taiwanese F-16V fighters roaring into the night sky. A show of force and a mega muscle flex in the face of China's uninterrupted campaign of intimidation. Seen here at the Hualien Air Base on Taiwan's mountainous east coast, weapons are slung onto these F-16Vs, Taiwan's most up-to-date combat jets, including Harpoon anti-ship missiles capable of long-range hits on Chinese naval vessels. The Hualien base, which has hangars cut out of the side of a mountain, has 2 pilots on duty at any point of time, sitting in their flight suits to be airborne in 6 minutes flat. That means the base exists on scramble alert to swoop up and engage any Chinese aerial threat at super short notice.
The tension between the Taiwan Strait is getting higher, and it's obvious in knowing that. But that's still what we're training for, and it's what we're preparing for. So they come and we rise, and so our scramble jet will never stop, and we will stop their offender and outside our defense outside our ADIZ. I won't say there's a lot of change, but our frequency to scramble is getting higher, and so I think the tension from the in the Taiwan Strait is definitely higher.
Taiwan has been converting its 141 F-16A/B jets to the much more advanced F-16V type and is boosting fleet strength by ordering 66 new F-16Vs from the United States. These jets will have more advanced avionics, weapons and radar systems to better face down the Chinese Air Force, including its J-20 stealth fighters that have been busy buzzing Taiwanese air defenses. One of the key weapons wielded by Taiwan's F-16V is the AIM-9X Sidewinder air-to-air missile capable of hot pursuit and kill of Chinese jets at visual range.
We condemn the Chinese Communists' continued provocative actions in the Taiwan Strait, disrupting peace within the region. But we must say, maintaining the intensity of our combat readiness training, ensuring the task of combat training is our force's responsibility.
In the face of nearly 100 air intrusions in the last 4 days alone, Taiwan's Air Force is also displaying some of its most powerful anti-aircraft weaponry. Swiss-made GDF-006 anti-aircraft guns and the Tiancun-3 anti-aircraft system, a complex surface-to-air weapon that can hit both aircraft and missiles. Also remember that Taiwan has formidably armed Apache and Black Hawk helicopters for any ground support. Taiwan may not be alone if a battle truly begins courtesy China, but the tiny island, for its size, is formidably armed and capable of giving the aggressor a bloody nose. The muscle flex is designed as a counter-reminder to Beijing of this precise fact. With Gaurav Sawant in Taipei, Taiwan, Bureau Report, India Today.
This is where we wrap up the Newstrack tonight. Gaurav will continue his reportage from across Taiwan. Several very important reports lined up over the next few days. We'll bring those to you on India Today. Thank you for tuning in. Wish you a very happy Janmashtami. I'll see you at 8 p.m. tomorrow evening. Goodbye.
In a move that's likely to further anger China, a bipartisan delegation of Japanese lawmakers are now all set to visit Taiwan. And this visit comes weeks after the visit of US House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and the recent visit of a bipartisan delegation of US lawmakers, both Democrats and Republicans. What's the message here? Whether it's the United States in the West or Japan in the East, democracies are standing with a democratically elected government in the Republic of China or Taiwan. And China clearly unlikely to be all too pleased with these developments. After Nancy Pelosi's visit, China announced a series of military drills and exercises around Taiwan Straits, in a way blockading Taiwan. But then another delegation came and China intensified those exercises. Now, when a Japanese delegation comes, will China further escalate these exercises? And that's the apprehension. The democratic world appears to be pushing back against an expansionist force. There is also a massive air power exercise that's being carried out in Australia. This is called Exercise Pitch Black. 100 fighter jets and other aircraft are likely to participate in this exercise starting in a couple of days.
मुश्किल में है। सरफरोशी की तमन्ना अब हमारे दिल में है। कुछ भी हो जाए, तिरंगा हम ही लहराएंगे।
Movies have been instrumental in bringing about social change, and they equally evoke the feeling of patriotism with its strong and powerful content and great performances.
मराठा सिर्फ दो ही बात जानता है, मारना या मरना।
सभी का सपना होता है कि कम से कम एक बार वॉर में जाने का मौका मिले।
तू सारे मार कट के वापस आ जाएगा।
कोई फिक्र न कर जानी, तो तिरंगा लहरा कर आऊंगा, नहीं तो उसमें लिपट के आऊंगा, लेकिन आऊंगा जरूर।
Perhaps why the makers now time and again choose to highlight the valor and the courage of our war heroes.
ये दिल मांगे मोर्चा है।
पूरे इतिहास में कभी कोई भी जंग किसी और देश को आजादी दिलवाने के लिए नहीं लड़ी।
Peepa starring Ishan Khattar is one such movie based on war veteran Brigadier Balram Singh Mehta's book. Brigadier Mehta from the 47th Cavalry Tank Squadron fought on the Eastern Front during the Indo-Pakistan War of 1971. The makers shared the teaser of the film on the occasion of Independence Day, and it gives glimpses of several incidents that happened during the war and is a story of three siblings against the backdrop of the action-packed 48-hour Battle of Garipur,
लेकिन आज एक मौका है इतिहास रचने का,
which was fought on the Eastern Front of India during the Indo-Pakistan War of 1971. The Raja Krishna Menon directorial, which is set to roll out in theatres on December 2nd, also stars Mrunal Thakur, Soni Rastan and Priyanshu Penyuli in pivotal roles.
Everyone's busy finding what's trending. You're busy finding out why. India Today, for those who research before reacting. Download the India Today app now. Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices.
Presented by Aditya Birla Capital. Co-presented by Star Health Insurance, the health insurance specialist. Co-presented by JK Pancharghat Tire. Ab hawa nahi niklegi. In association with Neom, the line new wonders for the world.
Good evening, hello and welcome. You're with the news today. This is your primetime destination news. Newsmakers' talking points. Our big talking point is the Rohingyas who are caught in a political crossfire. Are they illegal immigrants or are they refugees who deserve a right to stay? Also, left versus right in Bollywood. Should Kashmir files be sent to the Oscars? The film's director, Vivek Agnihotri, among my guests tonight. But as always, it's time for the 9 headlines at 9. The political war over the status of Rohingyas just got bigger. Centre accuses the Arvind Kejriwal government in Delhi of promising accommodation for illegal immigrants. AAP hits back, says first ascertain who took the resettling decision, blames the centre. Caught in the crossfire, Rohingyas worry. What happens to them next? No end to the Chief Minister Nataka in Karnataka, while Basavaraj Bommai's fate hangs in the balance. Congress infighting also implodes. DK Shivkumar publicly demands he be made the Chief Minister face again. Escalating Savarkar showdown. BJP workers try to gherao Siddaramaia's car. Congress and Muslim groups protest after Kerala school child dresses up as a Hindutva ideologue. PFI sees red over Ganesh Puja celebrations in Karnataka. School says move against Muslims since same government banned hijab in the campus. Pressure builds on the centre to take a stand on the Bilkis Bano case. Rape victim Bilkis Bano issues a statement urging the centre to put the rapist behind bars again. Opposition parties now question conflict of interest with 4 BJP leaders on the panel which freed the convicts. Worries grow over a lawless Bihar. Teen student critical after being shot from close range in Patna. Political war over a wanted minister taking oath in Nitish's cabinet. A landmark move in Jammu and Kashmir. For the first time, non-locals to be allowed to cast their vote. Nearly 25 lakh new voters to be enrolled. The film Kashmir Files splits Hindi cinema wide open. Filmmaker Anurag Kashyap doesn't want the film to be India's Oscar entry. Filmmaker Agnihotri hits back, says genocide deniers are blocking his film.